Friday night and we're in the wood shop. So welcome back to Woodshop Live. I'm Jay, your host, and we've got some stuff going on here in the wood shop this week. Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about sharpening. Sharpening tools is some or knives is something that I've always kind of been interested in for many, many years, but it's one of those things that just seems so intimidating that you just are afraid to do it, right? You're just afraid. You may even go out and buy tools. I bought tools and stones and all this stuff to do it, but the idea like, oh, I got to get the right angle, I got to get all this perfectly correct. It's so intimidating that, how does anyone even do that? Let me just make sure that we're running. And that's always been kind of my big problem is that I was kind of worried about making a mistake. But now that I've been, getting more hand tools and some chisels, and really kind of this was spurred on because my brother was visiting Japan back in the summertime, and I asked him to go by a place called Inoue Hamono. And Inoue Hamono is one of these old school Japanese woodworking supply stores where they have tools. And the Inoue family works with different, or they work with a select set of blacksmiths to have their kanas, which are their planes, as well as their chisels, their tools to be made by certain blacksmiths under their own name. And he went and he went to get me some, and as I knew that these tools were coming, I was like, I better really start to get my act together and start to learn how to sharpen. So I turned to one of my friends, who in that works at Woodcraft, Kevin, who owns a place called a Linear Workshop, and he was giving a demo, and I was talking to him about different things, and then last week on last Friday, before we did the workshop live last week, I was over at Hearn Hardwoods down up in Oxford, Pennsylvania, where they were having a big open house, and the guys from Lee Nielsen were there. Deneb Polchowski was there. Deneb was giving a demo, so I got a chance to talk to him and see what he was talking about, and he broke it down into some really simple kind of concepts. And I've been trying to absorb that this week, trying to figure out how do I do my own sharpening. And so we're going to go over all of that today, just to help you to move out of your if you're also like me, kind of like analysis paralysis. Hopefully we'll get you to break out of that. Now, also another thing that you might have seen a video on this channel a few weeks ago, beginning of September, I think it was, Jonathan Katz-Moses, one of the famous woodworking YouTubers, released a new tool called their Universal Sharpening Jig. And I was like so enthralled by that. I was like, wow, that looks like a really nice tool. I ordered it right away. I made a video about it, but I've been using it, and it's been an interesting journey with that. I mean, I'm still really at the very beginning of that journey, but I'm working on it. And yeah, so let's go over some of the things that are available to you as a woodworker. The most important thing, the most important lesson that I think you can to take away from this is just to do it, and not to spend too much of your mind space trying to decide which is the right platform for me. There's so many platforms. There's Worksharp, there's a Workshop spinning disc, there are discs you can buy to mount on your drill press. There's things like this, the wet sharpeners like the Tormex. This is a Rikon. There's all kinds of stuff. The key is not to get so bogged down in which is the right one, which is the perfect one, but really just to go and do it. Grab one and just start using it. That's really going to be the thing that's going to push you forward. And like as you can see, I've got the Rikon here. I've got this Worksharp, sandpaper belt thing, and it wasn't until I saw this Katz-Moses jig and I was like, I'm just going to go do it. And I already had owned a Wood River jig that I never took out of the package. So when I bought this Katz-Moses, I took it back, and they were, the Woodcraft guys are awesome. They're like, oh yeah, you haven't used it at all, so we can accept a return. And that was really, really helpful. So what we're going to do today is just go over basic sharpening with chisels and hand planes. And again, you don't have to think too much about it, right? So let us go and look. If you have questions also, leave them in the comments here. If you're watching this stream after the fact, leave comments down below. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them or help direct you to someone that might be better suited towards answering those questions. Like, for example, let's have a look. Let's have a look. One of the part of why I started, or where I started with the video about the Universal Sharpening Jig is I started with this kit. This is a kit that I got God, in the 80s, right? This is a wood chisel set from Sears. It's a Craftsman one. And these are just kind of like old school chisels. They're pretty beat up. Like this one, this is the 3/4 inch. Actually, that's in, you can kind of see right here, it's kind of been beveled over, right? From whatever, like, I don't know if I was working, was I working? Oh yeah, it feels like I was, but there are a lot of, like, they're just getting abused. They just got abused and beat up. Oh yeah, this one I was trying to work on last week. But if you have old chisels like this, you can work on them, and a lot of them will be chipped. Like look at the edge of that. That edge is just, it's just not straight. It's all kind of jagged. And if your tool chisel or whatever is like this, with like pieces missing out of it, you really want to take it to a grinder and like like a bench grinder and just kind of grind it. Rex Kruger has a video about that that's really interesting. I was just watching that earlier today, and I think that's probably what I'm going to have to do with these. You're going to have to take the chisel, because it's so damaged, you're going to have to basically put it against the grinder, like at 90 degrees, grind against it so it's flat. And then you want to make it square. Like this is not square right here, right? It's kind of rounded. So I really need to like grind it till it's square and then regrind it this way so that I replace the bevel on it, the primary bevel. And typically these are 25-degree bevels. So you need to put that back on. And then once you get all of that reestablished, square, beveled, and everything, then you can start to do the actual honing to polish and sharpen your tools. And those are the 3 steps. There's grinding, honing, and then polishing. And those are the 3 major steps of doing your chisels. Now, most of the time, once you have everything all set up, you never really have to go back to the grinding unless something extreme has happened, right? Grinding is really about when you're starting off on your journey with messed up tools or used tools. Like if you're out there at auctions or flea markets and you're buying chisels or hand planes, chances are it's probably going to be some damage, especially if they're in a condition where you have to restore them. You're probably going to have to regrind that bevel. And so that's just something to be prepared for. It's actually not very difficult. And everyone that I've talked to is always like, there's 25 degrees, there's 30 degrees, and then there's whatever degree that you actually put on it. So if you're, we say 25 and we say 30, but if you're at 27 and 32, same difference, same thing. And I know I said 5 degrees with those two, but let's say you're 27 and you're at 29, that's fine too, right? It's more about the fact that you're getting that general angle rather than precise, degrees on the angle. That's not so important. So let us go and have a look here at some of the stuff that we're going to be dealing with today. Now, one of the things that we're going to be looking over is that if you talk to like Deneb or to Kevin or anyone that has like nicely sharpened tools, they're always going to tell you it's probably some variation, but it only takes a few strokes, right? That's true. Like if you have a nice Lee Nielsen hand plane blade or nice, Narex chisel and you keep it sharp, when you actually go to resharpen it, it's going to be quick. It's going to be simple. It's going to be easy. However, if you're like me and you've got like janky tools that are kind of rough and busted, it's going to take a bit more time before you get that, that whole edge and everything established. That's going to take some work. But once you get there, then it's going to be easy after that. So that's the one light at the end of the tunnel that you can, consider for this. Now we've got a couple other tools here. Let's work with some things. Let me move over to the other side of the workshop, put you guys in a better position for what we're going to do. Put you on the bench here. Uh-oh, did I not? All right, that should be good enough, right? Is that in the way? It is in the way. All right, let's get that out of the way. Okay, so we're here at the bench, and you can see that there is a bunch of stuff here. I have this. Well, actually, let's not go there. This is not working out. Let's come back up here, and I will readjust things around to make it better. This is the difficult part when you're just running the stream all by yourself, and you know that's kind of what it is. Okay, let's look at some of the tools that we have here, so that just to familiarize yourself with them. Now we've got some tools here. Like I said, this is the Rikon wet sharpener. It's very similar to the Tormek. It's basically a Tormek ripoff. It goes forward, goes backwards. You put water in this reservoir, it soaks this, and then you put your tool in this tool holder, and it holds it at an angle, and you grind it. It's actually fairly nice. It's a fairly nice tool. Again, it's a question of just using it. Like, I didn't really use it until right before I shot that other video. So now I've got and I had set it up several months ago, but I just never got around to using it because, you know, I was just intimidated. Then we've got this Work Sharp. This is the Ken Onion edition. And basically you pull the trigger and you can control the speed of the sanding belt. And there's 4 different size, you know, 4 different grits of sanding. So you just work your way through that. And this actually has an adjuster so that you can, you know, choose whatever angle you want for the blade or for the bevel, right? So you set that, and then you put the tool in here and you just kind of run it through. I actually sharpened this old draw knife with it. It worked fairly well, and I resharpened one of my global kitchen knives with it, and that worked okay. It worked okay. I really, again, it's always a question of just actually doing it and learning it. Now you can also use like oil stones. These are more oil stones. This one has a double surface, so coarse on this side, fine on this side. This is actually one that my friend Matt gave to me because he gave me a hatchet and he's like, you need a stone. And I think the idea is to grind the hatchet edge in circular motions. So that's a possibility to use. This one though, you know, this is going to be kind of small. So if you're really trying to control the angles as well as the squareness and not do crowning or cupping, this is a little bit more difficult, I think. It's really, you know, you want something that's going to be sized for the tool, right? Then this one is one that I found in the toolbox. This is an old oil stone from my Boy Scouts of America days. And as you can see, it's just been around. I don't really remember much about this. 1981. So it's been here for quite a while. I've had that for a long time. So then moving down here, we're going to move down to another type of sanding. This is what we would call sandpaper type of sanding. The sandpaper, you're taking different types of abrasives and you're mounting it to some kind of hard, flat surface. Now you can use glass. I do have some glass here. You can just, this glass that I'm using, I actually bought at Home Depot. It's not thick. It's not very thick. I wish it was thicker. Like, this is the glass. It's very, very thin, but it works. It works. What you want is something that's going to keep your surface flat and not give you undulations in your tool as you're working it. And this I have set up a little bit more for flattening, right? So this is 80 grit sandpaper, 320 grit sandpaper, and 600 grit sandpaper. And basically what I'm doing is I'm taking 3M Super 77, you know, spray on adhesive, and then I'm grabbing some sandpapers and cutting it to size, and then basically spraying the back with, you know, with the adhesive, and then just taping it, pasting it down. And you know, you could use, there's all kinds of sandpapers out there. This particular style is wet dry sandpaper, so you can buy the wet dry. This is more automotive focused. Then there are things like Festool Granat. This is Festool sheets. While Festool Granat is kind of designed, you know, for general use, but really Festool stuff is kind of more for woodworking than metalworking, you can use it all, and you can wet them all however you want, and just kind of work with them. Because really, if you're using it in this way, you're going to go through the paper pretty fast. This is Norton Sand Pro, an 80 grit. That's a real nice one too. So Norton's a nice, you know, as long as you're buying good quality abrasives. And you know, even this one from Harbor Freight, the Hercules, this is perfectly fine abrasive. I mean, again, we're really plowing through it for this kind of operation. And what I had this really set up for is when I was, you know, getting my hand planes together, was trying to lap the base, right, the sole of the hand plane. So basically, we're just kind of going back and forth. through the grits, making sure that it's all level. Now, if you're talking about, and this is the number 4 smoothing plane. So this one, this size plane and the 5 jack plane, and maybe even up to the 6, maybe not the 6, but 4, 3, 4, 5, or maybe everything 1 to 5, you want to maybe consider checking the flatness of your sole. The larger ones, because they're so much longer and they're really traveling across larger pieces, they're kind of gliding over everything. You don't necessarily, it's not as critical, right? So you don't necessarily need to lap those, but I have this set up for this purpose. And this 80, 320, 600, these are considered very coarse grits in sharpening. So that like 80s really, if you need to like take heavy scratches and really start to work on it, because if you put this on something like 1,000 or up, and you're trying to flatten it, it's going to take you a long time. It's really, really quite frustrating to do that. So I would not recommend doing that, but maybe set up something like this. And thanks to Kevin, because Kevin was kind enough to give me this piece of quartz. This is engineered quartz, left over from some demolition of a kitchen. And that's one thing. Connect with people that if you're looking for these kind of pieces. Tell them, hey, I need a piece of like marble or granite or something that's flat for my sharpening kit. And I think you might be surprised at who might be able to come through and help you out with that, right? So some other products we might need is a green polishing compound, some acetone. Acetone's really important because once you wear these out, you're going to replace them. And since I have spray adhesive them down, they're going to leave some adhesive residue, some dry residue. So we'll use the acetone to clean up all of that adhesive residue. And if any part of the paper is stuck to the quartz, I can use that to pull it up, and it just keeps it clean and everything like that. The honing compound is for when you want to have a strop. If you want to have a leather strop like this piece, and you just kind of rub it on there. And you only need to put a little bit. You don't need to put a lot. Like you see some people, and they encrust their leather with the green. You don't need that. Just a little bit, and it does work its way. And this is a little strop piece that I made myself from a scrap piece of walnut. So I just took a piece of walnut, and I have some leather here because I can do a little bit of leather work. So I have some nice thick hide, and I just kind of use the suede side of it and glued the smooth side down, and there it is. You've got a quick strop for your tools. And then another product I've got here is 3-in-1 oil. And I'm going to use 3-in-1 oil really to kind of coat the metals after they've been sharpened, mainly just as a protectant to give it a coating. You can use a variety of different things. Traditionally in Japan, they use camellia oil. A lot of people in America, like if you go to Lee Nielsen, they tell you to use jojoba oil. Any of these will work. You can even use paste wax, like this is Meguiar's Deep Crystal Carnauba paste wax. And actually, I use this for so many things. Anything cast iron in the shop, like cast iron tables on the band saws, even like my aluminum table on the on the table saw. I'll put some of this on it, and in that case, it's not unlike the when I put on the cast iron, it's really more as a protectant. But when I use it on other surfaces like aluminum, it's really more for a glide enhancer. Like I want to enhance that glide, right? So this will help. Another thing you might want to keep around is some paraffin wax. This is just an old candle that I've burned, and it kind of went out, and yeah, there it is. And what I'll do is I'll use this as the glide on the hand plane. So just kind of do that kind of pattern right before you go to work the tool, and that's a great thing to keep around, right? So, all right, let's move down, and we're going to look at some of the other stuff we have here that's ready for your sharpening pleasures. Now, this is where we're going to start to get more into maybe the deeper section of it all. This is the stones. Over here to the left, we've got diamond stones. This is the DMT Dia Sharp, and the Dia Sharp is a really nice quality diamond stone. These are about 65, 70 bucks. They're very weighty. They're about 3 inches this way, 8 inches this way. And basically what these are, they are basically diamond pieces that are nickel plated into this piece of steel. And one of the things, as you can see, it's kind of like brownish looking because after you because if you're wetting it and you're scratching everything, those particulates of iron are going to get caught in here, and they cause some staining. You can do, and that's why a lot of people use Windex. I'm not too worried about that. I just kind of like use water because it's easier. Then we've got the Japanese style whetstones. Now there's two different types of whetstones. There are whetstones like this 8,000 grit whetstone that are mounted onto a block. And then there are like this King 1000 stone. This is Naniwaya, I think it is, where this is King. And this is a free stone. And I do have a base for it that I picked up the last time I was in Japan. So you can get these movable bases and put your stuff on there. Now, for these you do need to soak. So we're going to soak them in some water for just a few minutes. They say 15 minutes or so. I mean, it can be less than that. While these are whetstones, they don't necessarily have to be soaked. It helps to soak them, but some of them, how they make them, they have the carbide, the different silicos, whatever they use, and they bind them together with adhesives. So you just gotta be a little bit careful with some of them. You don't want them to be too long in water, otherwise they could lead to breaking down. Now, some of the other tools we're going to be using tonight are the sharpening jig. This is the Katz-Moses Universal Sharpening Jig. Very nice. Like, I'm really, really impressed with this thing. I've been using it a little bit this week. So that's a really nice tool. About 70 bucks. So it's cheaper than a lot of these other ones, like the Lee Nielsen, the Veritas. They're pretty expensive. And I think this does a nicer job. It's not as weighty. Those other ones are like steel, and it's like a little bit too weighty, but Another thing we're going to be using this Cosworth method tonight. So I've got my little 6-inch stainless steel ruler. This is the Shinwa ruler, and it's kind of like their Paolini style, right? So it's got the stop on it. Well, actually, we need to take that off, so we're going to get rid of that. This is very, maybe like 10 bucks, I think it is at Woodcraft. Now, Lee Nielsen Lee Nielsen guys are pushing this style of sharpening, and they're like, oh, we have a ruler. So the Lee Nielsen version of this is actually $7. So it's quite reasonably priced. So it's if you would like to have that bragging rights of having a Lee Nielsen tool, you can get their ruler. Nice. I'm sure it's a nice quality ruler. $7. What more can you ask for, right? And then another thing that's a nice tool to have, not totally necessary with the jig that we have, but I bought this a while back. There's a angle gauge. These are angle gauges. So this is the Wood River angle gauge. So basically what this means, you're going to take your blade, in this case, this chisel. This is a very, cheap Niaoshan Chinese-made chisel. Maybe it's like a socket chisel. I don't know what it is, but I got this set of 4 chisels for $10. It was on clearance at H Valley Toolworks back up in Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania, when I was up there one time. And then I realized, then I came back home and I learned that, Harbor Freight has very, very similar looking chisels instead of 5 for 10 bucks. So I was like, oh, well, I guess I didn't get a great deal. But like on this Wood River, it has these wedges for the different angles, and they're kind of electroplated on here. Where is it? We're looking for 25 degrees. Here's 20. Yeah, that says 25 degrees. So we're going to take the 25 degrees, and basically what you do, you just want to check. You just kind of slide it in like that. And I don't know if you can see that well, but basically there it is, 25 degrees. And there's the 30. This is not 30. You can see that there's a lot of play for 30, but 25, it's right in there. So 25 degrees. But what we're going to do is we're going to put a 30-degree micro bevel on it, right? So now, in this case, this is a brand new tool. I've actually never used this on wood. It's just been kind of sitting around, and I kind of bought it to play around with it, and I wanted to see about, how to sharpen is really one thing, and then I wanted to use these cheaper chisels mainly because I wanted to, start to use them and get a feel for what I might really like. Like when I was thinking about what kind of Japanese chisel I would like to have, I was trying to figure all this stuff about like what type of metals, what type of whatever. And then there's a guy named Wilbur Pan, and he's kind of the expert in Japanese tools. And this is the one that I got from Inoue Hamono. It's 10,000 yen. So maybe like $80. Handmade, right? Handmade. And Wilbur, I read an interview somewhere where Wilbur was like, if because he's like, if you want to buy something, just go to a master. Go to the master, tell the master what you're trying to do, and let them guide you. And I was like, you know what? That's really the best advice. So I said to my brother, I said, hey, tell Master Inoue that this is what I do. Show him some pictures, and then tell them I need a chisel that can do dovetails. And so he was like, this is the one he wants. This is the one he wants. And I want 12 millimeters, so about half an inch. Because of that, to me, the 12 millimeter is the one that I use the most. If I look at those Sears chisels, this set of chisels, the half inch is the one that got used the most. And that's the one that I turned to over the past year. So 12 millimeters, half an inch, that one. This one's 18 millimeters, so 3/4 of an inch. But one of the things you're going to look at when you get new chisels, this is true for any chisels out there, whether they're Lee Nielsen's or anything like that, we want to see how flat the back is, right? How flat is the back? What we want is a very flat back so that we have a good reference panel so that when we're chiseling, it'll work. Now, you can see here it's kind of rough. I don't know if you can see that as well. Actually, maybe there's too much shadow. Let me grab a light here. There we go. So you can see it's kind of a lot of scratching. So what we want to do is we want to smoothen it out. And part of the way we're going to smoothen it out is to lap on it. But what we're going to do first is take our 8,000 stone. And one of the things we want to do first before we start with our 8,000 stone is we want to, let me reset our camera so you can see this. I think I've shown you all the products we're going to be using today. So I think we're safe in that respect. But where's my beanbag? Like, oh, there it is. Like I said, there's always something. In a live stream, there's always some kind of craziness that can happen. Okay, I'm going to put that there. And I think you'll be able to sit there and see what we're doing in a good way. Right? I think that's going to be good. Okay, good. Now this is the 8,000 stone. We've got our Dia Sharp course. And what we want to do is we want to lap the stone because I've used it a couple times, but we want to make sure that it's flat. So one of the ways to make sure that it's flat is we're going to get ourselves a pencil. And here I've got the Pica pencil. And I'm just going to do some lines across it like that. Then I'm going to take the coarse stone, just add a little bit more water to make sure that we've got enough water going on here. You know how old this is like 30 years old, this squeeze bottle. Can't believe it still works. And then we're going to lap. We're going to lap and make sure that it's flat. Oh, actually, it feels pretty flat. It's a lot of suction going on here. Oh, that is tight. I probably should get the bigger stone. Dia Sharp makes a bigger stone. Now they do also make a purpose-built flattening. Oh gosh, this is super tight. Like it must really be flat, like because it's super suctiony, right? Oh, another thing you want to do. That's another thing. Let's do it this way. It's probably better. This is very heavy, so it's harder to work with. I'm just gonna clean that off. You can see that there's a lot of stuff on there because we are getting a lot of it off. Yeah, that's better. Oh, I need something that will hold it down a little bit more. Ouch. Oh, I need that better. So you can see here that we're getting some, but we're not totally flat yet. There's still, see that now this is flatter than here, so we're going to have to continue on. And this is really what's going to help keep your tool, you know, really true, is by let's get that. It just suctions it down. Yeah, so you can see we're still not quite there. What we should do is turn this around also. Now, the thing is that, you know, this is out of flat, but once you get it flattened, you'll be able to keep it flat as long as you do this on the regular. But there's a lot of, oops, it is getting a little bit messy now. See, there's still low points here. Let's try it this way. Yeah, there's still a lot of, it's still, it really does suction itself down. I wonder maybe if I'm pushing too hard. Maybe that's better. Getting better, getting more. Yeah, so you can see it's coming along. It's not coming along very fast. And this is the coarse stone, so. Could also be because maybe I'm just doing the technique wrong. And this is the thing, you know, if you're, you know, I could very well be doing this wrong, so the key is that you just need to do, and then you learn as you go, and not to be too afraid of that. Maybe that's what I need. Maybe even pressure on the front and back. Oh, we got a lot of buildup here. Let me just. Yeah, that's not working. This microfiber cloth doesn't quite soak up as well as I would like it to. Okay. Okay, that's going to be good for now. Now we want to check our 1000 grit stone, the king. Actually, I'm going to try the other side. Let's get that. So you can see I put that there. Now I did go from fine to coarse intentionally because if we're going from finer to the coarser, then we won't have, like if we went the other way around, we could embed some coarse particulates in the finer stone. This way, if we would embed anything, it would be finer into coarser. Oh yeah. Okay, good. That's pretty good. All right, that's pretty much good there. We've got that nicely done. So we're going to take this now. Oh, and we're going to check the backs of our chisel, right? We got this chisel here. So we're going to take our 8000 stone. And what we're going to do is we're going to lap it. We're going to start off here. What we're looking for is to do maybe thirds, right? And we're going to start off to flatten it and just go back and forth with it. We're going to go back and forth up and down the length of this. What we need to do also is to grab some get some marker. We'll do so, put some marker on here. That's not working. How about pencil? This will just help us to see what's happening. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off by just going across back and forth the first like third of the stone. Trying to keep even pressure back and forth. And then we're going to go deeper into this, maybe about 2/3 of the way down the stone. And this is going to give us some, then further. And I am coming off the edge, right? So I'm going through most of the chisel, the length of the chisel, but not quite all of it. All right, we can see here that we've got some good lapping there, right? So that's kind of flattening out here, right here. Right there. We removed most of the mark, but like here you can see some hollow. What we're going to do is do a little bit more. Again, the same thing. What we really want is maybe like the first inch to be totally flat. And so you'll need to do this with a brand new chisel just to make sure. And that's why we're using the highest grit, because it is, high, and you won't really do any kind of heavy scratches into the steel in case could be better. Like there's still some striations there. We might need to go to something a little bit more coarse. So let's go to the 1000. Let's do this on the 1000 grit and see what we can get out of that. This is a technique that Deneb showed me, and I was like, huh. Or maybe he didn't show me personally. He was like, watch my videos. It's like, all right, we'll watch the videos. And you want to try to keep it flat. Don't be careful about it jumping up and down. You don't want to round over the edges. So it's getting better. It is getting better, but not quite where we want it to be yet, right? So this is, and this is why we go to the coarser stones so that we can get faster results. Actually, look at that. That's still fairly rough. We really want it to be polished. Like that's pretty rough. Let's try going to a little more dramatic with the DS Sharp course. Let's see if that does anything for us here. Is that doing anything? Maybe not. This is why I have these cheaper chisels so that I can play around with them and really start to hopefully understand the process better. So that when it comes to the nicer chisels, I will be a little bit better prepared for that, right? Now this is definitely going to take more work. Like you can see the scratches. You can see the scratches right around here. So there's definitely a hollow happening there. So let's go back to our 1000. Yeah, we definitely have a hollow happening here. I'm not necessarily going to worry too much about the hollow. Like we would have a hollow, something similar in Japanese planes or Japanese chisels. So let's see if we can start to polish that back. All right, so we've got a bit of a polish going on there. You can just barely see it. And I think we'll stay with that for the time being. Now what we're going to do is we're going to worry about getting our edge going on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our Katz-Moses jig, and we're going to start with our 1000 grit stone. So the Katz-Moses Universal jig is actually quite a nice tool. I'm going to lower that out here like this. And it has this built-in stops for 25 and 30 degree bevels, which is really handy. Now they do have an add-on that comes with it that if you want to get a little bit more jiggy with different like increments between 20 and 30 and whatever, this will help you achieve that. But for 30 and 25, this is really all that you're going to need. And when you're putting it in, you got to remember that the bevel is going to be down. So you're going to have it this way. Oops. And open up the jaws. So these brass things open up, and then you can put this stop block to center everything. I'm going to put that in. I'm going to put that in this way. In the video, I did it totally wrong. And we're going to select the 30 degrees, which is the lower. Well, I'm going to push that into the, oops, is that not working? Oh yeah. Push that up here. And then I'm going to close up the jaws. One of the things, the jaws, because they're two screws, it's kind of like a Moxon vise kind of thing where you can actually tighten it down too much, meaning, or maybe not tighten it down too much, but meaning that you can, and what I like to do is I just kind of leave it loose and let it fall through gravity. Then maybe I'll push it up, push it against the stop, and then close on both sides until you get it snug, and then you can tighten it. And that should give us our 30 degrees. And then you hold it, use it in this manner, right? Giving even pressure with your fingers on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 4 runs. And feel to see if there's a burr being formed. There's no burr yet. So let's come back. Not yet. It might take a while. For your first time, it might take a while to get that burr to form because we're trying to make it edge over, right? And what Deneb told me when I was talking with him, he's like, if you feel anything, that's the burr. Like it doesn't have to be a hook. It doesn't have to be, something crazy. You just have to feel, not yet. Oh, I think we're close. So feel something more on this side, less on this side. So we're going to maybe put a little more pressure. A little bit more. I want a little bit more burr on that edge. Now, when Deneb was showing it with the Lee Nielsen stuff, it really did take 4 strokes. Okay, now I've got a burr right there. You can just feel a little bit there, and that's sharp enough. So now what we're going to take our 8,000 stone, come back and do a little polish on it. 1, 2, 3, 4. That should give us a bit of a flashy polish right there. I need to get my glasses because I can't even see them. I can't see. Oh, see, this is where the problem starts. If I look at this bevel, it looks like it, yeah, you can, I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's actually uneven. It's wider here and narrower there. So what we're going to have to do is come back, do a little bit more on, let me make sure I didn't adjust it out of square. Okay, a little bit more on pressure here. Oh yeah, you could see a little bit of a streaking there, okay. Still beveled, I mean still angled, so we're going to have to do a little bit more. This is really just about learning the technique. Like that unevenness must be coming from me giving wrong pressure on the other side. So that's, and like I said, this is just why you work on it. And like, yeah, now you can kind of, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a bit of a flash that will happen right at the edge, and that's really kind of what we're looking for. And then there's still the burr here, so what we want to do is we want to come back and do a little bit of the polishing to remove it. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, that's pretty good. It's not, I would not say this is like amazingly sharpened, but I think it should be well enough sharp for us to utilize. All right, let's put that aside for the moment. And then now we're going to go into like a little bit about hand planing or sharpening with hand plane. So we've got this number 4. And I've already done some work on it. It definitely needs more. So we're going to take out our chip breaker and blade. I guess I need a... If you look at Lee Nielsen's website, they have like special, beautiful screwdrivers to do this for like $50, and you're like, oh, I want to buy that. But this is perfectly fine. Just get all like, you get all crazy with their stuff, right? Okay, so here's our plain blade. It's, you know, it's worn. This is an old, you know, restored tool that, you know, I got from private sellers. You know, these are beaters. These are meant to be working tools, not really, they're not meant to be show pieces, and that's not what I want. So what we're gonna do is again, I've already got it a little bit worked. I've already lapped the back before, so that should be fine. We can just double check that again, just to put that on there a little bit. Now, with this, we do kind of want to do an angle on it. So while I'm just doing a little bit of that, that's not so important, right? Because remember, the chip breaker comes right up to the edge there. So it's not terribly important that this is flat at all. You can flatten if you want, if you're into the aesthetic of it, but that's not quite necessary. What we want to do is put the right edge on there, and we're going to take our Katz-Moses jig. I'm going to take this stop block out because we won't be needing that. And then we're going to take our blade, bevel down again, and put it into the 30 slot. Again, I'm just going to let the natural weight of gravity handle things and just come up like that. Tighten it down. Good. And now we're good to go. So let us start with the 1000 grit. Put that back away. We have our 1000 grit here. No burr yet. I think one of the hardest things is getting used to, the pressure and how much pressure you should be putting on the blade as you're stroking it. Not yet. Mom, how are you, Mom? Good to see you. How's everything going tonight out in New York? I'm trying to figure out this whole sharpening thing. It's quite a challenge. Still no burr. What I'm not so sure, I think I can also go forward on the stroke, right? Try that. And as you're doing this, you want to make sure that you are going across to cover as much of the stone as you can, because you want to have even wear of the stone. We want to turn it around now and wear it from this end. Gosh, still no burr. What is going on here? Like this, like I said before, when you have tools that are a little bit more damaged, like this is, I would definitely say this is a damaged tool. There is going to be a lot of preparation in order to get it to the point where you're totally rocking and rolling with it. Still not yet. Gosh, part of me wants to go to the coarser stone now. Oh, we're getting there. We're getting closer. I tend to be impatient about things, so. Not yet. And all these strokes, that's why I'm thinking I need to go to a coarser stone in order to get it to really start to bite that edge. Oh, that's really bad. That is super coarse. This is like 320, and I can feel the difference. Okay. What is with that? Oh, there's pieces on here. Goodness. There's always something impeding my progress at some point, right? That's just how it is. Pieces, broken pieces of a washer. Okay. Okay, that's probably better now. Let's go to the 1000. It's like you're chasing something that seems impossible to find. But the promise is that once you get a good edge finally, oh, we're getting closer, then you will be rewarded with much easier future sharpenings. Oh, there's definitely a burr on this side, not so much on the right. that's good. So now to the 8,000 stone. Really, I need to work on the pressure because man, it's really, when I can see the edge on it now, and I can see where I'm, pressuring it wrong. Like it's not even at all. Need some right there. You know what? I think this blade is also kind of scalloped. Oh yeah, this is, what I think I really need to do with this blade is I think I need to regrind it completely. All right, let's see here. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the bevel on the back. We're going to put a bevel on the back. And how we're going to do that is we're going to use this ruler, this chinois ruler, to create a secondary angle on the back by holding it this far away, right? So this little teeny tiny fin is just going to put a little bit of bevel on the back of it. And we're going to go come off the blade, come off the stone. This is, I think, called the Cosworth method. I don't know if I see anything. Like, I don't know if this is, I don't think this plane blade is straight enough to really be effective with any of this. I think it probably does need to be reground. Yeah, like I'm not seeing anything there. This is failure. That's what this is. This is what we call failure. But failure is going to be part of it, right? If you go out there and you make mistakes and you have to go do it again, it's just part of the learning process. So it's really okay. I promise it's okay. I think, at least that's what I'm telling myself. Oh, that is sharp. Oh, that feels sharp. Okay, great. So that's nice and sharp now. Let's wipe it up here. Then we're going to put it back together with the blade, with the chip breaker. Just kind of line it right up against it, like that. Oh, what I need to do is put this back together. That would be helpful. Now it is wet, so, but I have treated it with some oil, so it's not that bad. Oh, don't push up against that. Push it like that. And let's put this in here. So that chip breaker is really right up against that blade edge without going over it, I think. Let me just make sure I can barely. Oh yeah, that's good. You can kind of see it's like just barely showing. So that will now go in the hand plane. Okay, good. Sit that like this. Then the cap. All right, now we're going to get to go try this stuff and see how it works. Let me set up a little bit of cutting here. That is something that I kind of forgot to do. I should not use that. All right, I've got some pine. We're going to use some pine. Pine is very, very simple and easy to use. It's not going to be too hard because, you know, I'm not a very good woodworker. So we want to make myself look as best as I possibly can. Let me set it up here with some clamps. Okay, great. Now we will come over here. Put you guys up there. Hopefully this will be a good angle. Let's see. As you can see here. Oh yeah, let's get rid of this. All right, so we've got this 2x4 pine, and let us see how successful we are with shavings. We're gonna pull the blade back. Is that pulling it out? I never can remember which way it goes. Okay, there we go. That's going in. Okay, to the right, we're going to start to bring it out. And we're starting to get some shavings, good. Oh yeah, oh! That's looking fairly decent. Okay, maybe a little bit deeper. Yes. Nice. The more I do hand woodworking and hand planing, the more I need to, like, keep thinking I need to get a more stable bench. I'm going to pull out a little bit more. Oh yeah. All right, so yeah, there it is right there. We've got a nicely sharpened plane blade. Now, there is a little bit of, let's see, let me try that one more time. Looks like it could be a little bit off. Yeah, that's probably better. You can adjust the angle of the blade to get more even. Oh, I think that's a little bit too adjusted. Oh yeah, that's more like it. All right, so that's good. Now, how did we do? So that turned out fairly well. Now let's have a look at our chisel. And you know, it looks kind of nice, but let's see if we can get some nice, oops. Okay, that's not a fair way to do it because just running along the grain. How about if we needed to come down on it? Let me grab a little bit of a mallet. Oh yeah, the mallet's over here. So let's say I wanted to just kind of cut it out a little bit. I may not have it clamped enough. It's never how the tool, it's always about how shoddy your abilities are. Yeah, see, I got it too far out, so the leverage is, it's leveraging itself out of the clamp. So let's put this back. Okay, that should be a lot better. All right, there we go. So fairly nice, I think, with, it's a little bit uneven. All right, that's not bad. Let's have a look at that. All right, so just a little bit of a, just a little notch out there just to see how the chisel went, and I think that works pretty darn good. Like I'm relatively pleased with the results. So, but really, this live stream is more about, you know, encouraging you to get out there and start sharpening your tools, because, you know, it can be very intimidating. Like I said at the beginning, I was very intimidated about sharpening, so I really didn't do it until just recently. So, you know, get whatever you want, like whatever you might have available to you, use that. You can be sandpaper, it can be some kind of machinery, it can just be whetstones, but the important aspect, or the important point, is that you just go out and do it, and don't be afraid. Try to be fearless. If you saw the whole stream, you can see that, and you knew what you're doing. You could see that I made up tons of mistakes. So, but you can recover from them. There's plenty of metal to go around. You can always regrind your edges if you absolutely have to. So, don't be afraid to go out and try it and start doing your own sharpening. And I guess that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in for the Woodshop Live. And I think we're back again next week with more Woodshop Live. So Friday nights, that's really what we're doing instead of going to the club. So I hope you have a great one, a great weekend, and another week, and enjoy your woodworking.